What are your best examples of people cheating the system? I'll start. I used to go to a gas station where if you spent more than $8 on gas, they gave you a ticket for a free automatic car wash. The car wash had a 4-digit code that you typed in that was printed on the ticket. The employees had all these tickets stacked up in a pile on the counter to hand out to people when they got gas. Every time I got gas, I'd go in for my free ticket. They'd hand me one. Then I'd look down at the next one in the stack and memorize that number without even bothering to look at the one the guy handed me. Then I'd go outside and use the memorized number to wash my car and save the ticket the guy gave me until the next time I was passing by. The numbers only worked once, so it probably ticked off a lot of people behind me in line. I left in the middle of the high school AP statistics final exam, having not even attempted the written portion. Yet I received a score of 4 out of 5 for the test. I requested that my test be voided before I left the exam building. But I guess the proctor messed up, because the AP board assumed they had lost my written portion and graded my test based on the multiple choice section alone. I don't know if it is really cheating the system, but it allowed me to skip all my stat classes in college. Hooray! I got a ticket for doing a burnout in my car. Some private citizen called it in. Police came to my door and gave me a ticket. Since the police didn't says me do it, I decided to fight the ticket and made a traffic court date, in order for myself to actually get charged for the offense. The witness had to be present. A week prior to the court date, I received a phone call from the court saying the witness had a heart attack and will be in hospital and not able to make the court date. They asked if I would change the date to a later one. I obviously said no. Proceeded to show up to that court date, and ended up getting off of that ticket due to a witness no-show. The 3 o'clock block. This guy I worked with in Tool and I used to keep a block of steel in his toolbox. And at 3:00 on a Friday he would get it out and take it to the surface grinder. A surface grinder is a machine you put the block on and then turn a dial and watch it grind. The block was not part of any job, just a block to look busy with. He just stood there and ground it for no reason other than to not do other real work. I have a friend who is also a Redditor, and I hope he sees this so I can laugh at him for stealing his comma, who worked IT for his district while he was in high school. They were upgrading their laptop system and had no use for their old laptops. Most of them were in disrepair anyway. They told him it was against the rules for him to just take them or sell them. So he just popped out the network adapter cards before throwing them away and sold them in bulk on eBay. He made a quick 2k 3k gold to a 16-year-old. So I work in the luggage claim department for a major airline. All day I get to hear customers yelling and complaining. What I did is borrow one of the wheelchairs from the airport and sit behind my desk all day long. Customers come in all angry, see me in the wheelchair, realize they are about to yell at a guy who is possibly crippled, and all of a sudden they turn into the nicest people. Physically my blood pressure has dropped and in general I'm in a pretty good mood most of the time. Edit. So, my boss will often check the date modified on certain files on our server to see if I have updated or even opened a certain file recently. So, I have installed a changer utility that allows me to modify the date modified on any file. This comes in most handy when my boss wants to give me weekend assignments. I just come in on Monday morning and change the date modified to Saturday night, and he thinks I was actually doing something for work on Saturday night. I've actually received a lot of kudos for this. I don't feel bad though, because my boss is a huge dickhead. My wife and I were at a super fancy restaurant in New York City. Reservations not allowed. Expect a wait. We get there and are told we will be waiting about 2 hours. No problem, we planned on this. Some guy right after us shook the reservation guy's hand, handing him $200. Next thing I know I hear table for 2 for Thomas. Thomas being my name, and I asked for a table of 2. I say that is me. They sit us and we order drinks and apps. 5 minutes later they say we are the wrong Thomas, but we could stay since we had already ordered. Guess who was the right Thomas? The guy who paid $200 to skip the line. When I was in college, I had this meal plan where the school essentially took my actual money and turned it into campus dollars that could only be spent at school dining halls and cafes. I didn't mind so much until the end of the semester, when I was informed that any unspent campus dollars would go away. I had more than $100 left, and only a day to spend them. Here's what I did. I went to the nicest campus restaurant, the one where you're supposed to take your parents when they come to visit. Basically, a real restaurant with waitstaff that also happened to take campus dollars. I got the most expensive thing on the menu, and then called the waiter over. I asked him if I could tip him in campus dollars, and he said yes. I asked him if he would have immediate access to those campus dollars in the form of actual money, and he said yes. So I made him a deal. I gave him a monster tip, and he gave me half of it back in actual money. Many years later, I am still proud of this. I made a server's day, screwed the man, and got my money back. Whenever people come to the pool where I lifeguard and have guests with them, I always ask them if they live more than 50 miles away. Our policy is guests from more than 50 miles away don't pay guest fees. If they say no, I give them the look and ask them again. They usually say yes after that, saving customers $2 like a boss. One of the best cheats ever. Know how they have the 3-month free premium channel thing when you switch TV providers? You can get that without switching by calling up your provider and asking to speak to a supervisor and spinning a yarn about how you're unsure since XXXX company will offer you the premium channels. The supervisor's job is to ensure customer satisfaction, and they get in trouble if people leave the service under their watch. As such, you will often get a price cut or free premium service. Cox Cable. 5 years free HBO. Stars. Cinemax and Showtime. Okay. Where to start? My girlfriend runs a salon. One of her employees, we will call her Casey, has a kid with a deadbeat guy. Casey and her man friend are drug addicts and very irresponsible parents, and for all purposes bottom feeders. The baby is now just over 12 months or so, and is diagnosed with cancer. Casey tells my girlfriend she can no longer work because she wants time at home with her son that she had never cared about before this. A week later, Casey revisited the salon and brags about how the state of Ohio is paying her son's medical bills and she doesn't have to pay a dime. Cool deal, I guess. The plot thickens. She has the balls to ask my girlfriend in the same conversation to have a fundraiser for her child's medical bills because Casey cannot afford them. My girlfriend is blown away by this, especially considering Casey quit her job. She politely declines. Casey leaves. A few days later, Casey is on the local news with her deadbeat boyfriend sobbing about how she can't pay the medical bills and cannot find work. She asks people to donate to an account at a local bank. The money is rolling in at this point. Casey appears later at the salon to get a full service cut and color, nails, and shows off the new clothes she had purchased, etc. And before we know it, her son and her crying mug are all over Facebook and the news. Car washes are being held, spaghetti dinners, donation bins at local businesses, you name it, all to pay for medical bills already being paid by the state of Ohio. A few months pass, and so does the child. Very sad indeed. The day after the funeral, Casey posts on Facebook pictures of her out partying it up at a local club. And soon after there is a benefit dinner being held for Casey to pay for funeral expenses. And she wants to start a charity for cancer research. Now, this is the short version of the story, but fucked up nonetheless. I've urged my girlfriend to report this to someone, but she hasn't out of fear of retaliation. It's too bad that people play on others' feelings and take advantage of the system like this. Felt good to vent. When I was in college, there was a pay by the hour parking lot right next to the College of Business. Accounting major, the university charged $1.00/hour to use the parking lot, or you could park 2 miles away, wait for a bus, and then ride it to and from campus. Being the savvy business student I was, every year at the beginning of the fall semester I would park in the pay lot, buy a ticket, and then run home and enter it into a spreadsheet. I'd record the first day of classes as day 1 in the first field and then enter the ticket number that I had received that day in a separate field. Needless to say, after 3 weeks, I would have a strong enough amount of data to plot a line of best fit, using simple algebra that I had learned in college, and was able to predict a ticket number for any given day. I'd then scan a ticket into my school laptop and use Photoshop to edit the date, time, and ticket number. Printed that bitch out, stuck it in my window, and cashed in on free parking. Sure, it was a bit dangerous, but it saved me a shit ton of time and money. Plus, my argument if I was ever caught was to explain that I used those skills that the university had taught me in my courses to take advantage of a flawed system. My ethics teacher would have been pissed, but I know my management and econ professors would have been proud. When I was a teenager, I worked at a McDonald's where the beverages were self-serve. We just sold you the cup. Once, on a particularly slow day when I was the only one at the registers, an older man walked in with an empty gallon of milk carton, walked over to the Coke dispenser, and started to fill. It took a full minute or two, and he actually looked over at me once, where I was watching him utterly fascinated. When he was done, he put the little cap back on, nodded to me, then walked back out to his car. At my university they have parking passes which scale in price depending on what time of day you use them. Most expensive is 24 hours and the rest scale down in price in level of most traffic to least. The parking garages are also open to the public at a daily rate. A lot of my friends bought the cheapest pass with the most constricting hours. I think it's only after 4 PM they can use them. So what they do is come in the morning and take a ticket as if they're going to use the daily rate. Then at the end of the day they swipe out with their garage pass. When buying a new car, instead of going to a showroom and haggling with them, go to cars.com, find dealers around you. Ask them for quotes over email. Once they send you quotes over email, edit the price mentioned in the email and forward it to some other dealer. The other dealer will reduce his price below this. Edit that email to reduce the price and send it to the first dealer. Keep doing it. Got $24,000 car for $17,000, all taxes included. Close bracket. Got a negative removed from my credit report. Once you have a negative on your report it stays on for 7 years. There are exceptions. Write a letter to all 3 agencies telling them that the negative is a mistake and that by law they must investigate it and provide proof of their investigation within 30 days. You can send these letters every 30 days as well. And they must investigate it each time. The agencies don't have the resources to investigate each claim, so they often just remove it. When I wrote my letters, the first 2 agencies removed the negative the first time. The other agency did the investigation and responded saying that it was in fact accurate. I sent the same letter a month later and they dropped it that time. You should use old-fashioned snail mail as it is more difficult to process that way. Worked like a charm and now I have a perfect credit history. I have a complicated cheating the system. On my iPhone, there is a particular app that awards M points whenever you do certain things in the app. The first time you open it each day, when you watch one of the news stories, that kind of thing. Well, those M points you could trade in later for tons of things, including Amazon gift cards. 5k M points was a $5 Amazon gift card. Watching a 10-minute video was worth, in the beginning, about 300 M points. The trick was that you could drag the bar to the end of the video and it would still trigger the M points. Basically, you could make about $5 a minute the first day they opened it. My buddy and I stayed up super late that night and made several $100s in Amazon gift cards that night, which were just a coupon code you attached to your Amazon account. The next morning they reduced the value from 300 to something like 100 points. Still worth it in that you could make 1/3 of the money, which was essentially free. The final blow was when they reduced the amount to something like 10 points. Then it became too much. In the end, after about a week, we bought 2 high-end gaming computers, parts then assembled, from nearly scratch. We already had a tower and power supply for one, but the other was completely built for free. Courtesy this app. Was incredible. I know a guy who lied about living with his parents to collect the max value of student loans while doing his undergrad. He's now a grad student who is too busy to work and has reached the max number of years of loans and thinks the system is screwing him over. I know a guy who fixes cars out of his home garage for half the price of what a real car mechanic would do. He works a part-time job as a bus driver except for summer and fall tire changing seasons to declare some income, but earns way more off his garage business by undercutting the people who actually pay taxes and stuff. I know a guy who applies to jobs he knows he won't get to stay on unemployment. Man. Quebec. No wonder we're bankrupt. I used to work at a restaurant that would track our tip percentage, but not too much else of our activity. The amount of tables we got per night would be based on our tip percentage. And there was also a regional leaderboard. We were allowed to buy food from the restaurant, but we couldn't bring ourselves in. Which led me and my friend Jim to our greatest discovery. We would buy a side of mashed potatoes from each other, a $2.00-ish side, and pay with a credit card. We would then tip each other $10-12, a 500-600% tip. We would do this every so often. Not enough to be ridiculous. And within a few months we were the top servers in the entire region, with an average tip percentage of over 30%, thereby granting us some kind words from management and the most tables per night of the whole restaurant. TLDR. Paid $14.00 for a side of mashed potatoes. Came out on top. I used to work at Walden Books back in the day. There was a dude who used to routinely come in and buy bargain books. He would then go home and come back another time with the bargain books with the stickers ripped off to return them and claim he didn't have a receipt. We would then have to give him store credit for the price that the books rang up as, always more than the discounted bargain sticker. He would then come back at a later time and use the store credits to buy full price books. He would then come back one final time and return the books with a receipt for cash. It used to irritate me when he would do this because I knew what he was doing and there wasn't anything I could do about it. Interestingly enough, this very same man would become a supervisor of mine at another place I worked at later and was a pretty cool guy. I never mentioned to him that I knew about his scheme. But even if I told him, he would have given zero fucks. Saw a mother at the moves with her family of 4. They bought a large popcorn. One you get free refills on. After entering the movie theater, she pulls out a large Ziploc bag and empties a tub of popcorn into it. She sent each family member to get a free refill, until each one had their own bag. You know how those sites that you can buy access for 3 months then have to cancel or they continue to charge you? I went down and spent $50 on an Amex gift card. The kind that is just like a credit card but not tied to you in any way. I went around and used up the $50 on multiple sites, knowing that after the 3 months the money was gone, and they couldn't charge a card without money on it. Took them a couple years to figure it out and cut me off. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. In undergrad, parking where you don't belong gets you a ticket. I always parked where I didn't belong, teacher and visitor lots especially, because everything else was taken. And these were right up close to my dorm class. So unpaid tickets accumulate, and are then applied to your tuition balance so that you must pay them before you can register for the next semester, or before you get your diploma. In the case of seniors. Close bracket. But as a member of the honors college, I was on 100% tuition scholarship. So these tickets were tacked on, and then wiped clear. They caught on about halfway through junior year. But by then I had literally wallpapered an entire wall of my room with over $2,000 worth of blue parking tickets. I think I still have a huge stack of them. And can edit this comment with a picture of them if there's interest. TLDR, college parking tickets were added to my tuition, which was covered by scholarship. So I parked wherever the hell I wanted. My friend used to carefully cut open the cellophane wrap on video games at the top or bottom flap and slide out the case, leaving the cellophane completely intact. He would then use a razor blade and carefully cut along the case and the plastic sheet holding and the game label. Still with me? Comma. That way the sticker would still look intact. Eventually, he would be able to play the game. Seal everything back up using clear drying glue for the cellophane edge. And return it to the store with no problem. He always had every latest and greatest game for 2 weeks. When I was in the army, at 8, we had our last chance to turn in damaged uniforms without paying for the replacements. I was right behind Lopez as he went up to the counter and told the lady there that he had been given the wrong size cap. He had one size 8 that fit and one size 7 one. 4 that didn't. He asked if she could replace it. No. Honey, Georgia nice. I can only replace damaged uniform components, she said, casually pulling a seam ripper out of her pocket, placing it on the counter, and turning away. I am guessing Lopez didn't have a mom who sewed because he just looked at it and up at her, wondering what was going on. I reached past him, grabbing the seam ripper and the cap. A quick zip sound later and the lady turned around, looked at the cap and said, "Oh, honey, you didn't say it was ripped. You need a size 8. Then?" Double quote. Not sure if we were putting one over on the man or just participating in a really stupid system. Stayed in through Gulf War I. So I think I know the answer. So why back in the day I bought an Xbox 360 on launch day. I was a student and pretty broke. So this purchase cleaned me out. I had to wait in line 24 hours to get one. Fast forward about 5 months of super intense use. And my 360 red ringed, broke. This problem wasn't well known yet. And Microsoft refused to help. What was a broke student still paying off the bill for the original purchase to do? Easy. Withdraw $500 cash from an ATM and purchase a new Xbox 360. Carefully open the box using a hairdryer to bypass the security labels. Same for all the tags on the Xbox itself. Then, remove all the guts from the new Xbox and transplant them into my dead one. Then, because I was spiteful, I weighed my broken parts on a kitchen scale and proceeded to hot glue about 2/3 of a brick into the plastic shell. I sealed the Xbox back up and returned it for cash again. I'm sure the Microsoft tech that examined that returned unit had a good time diagnosing it. Internal brick won't power on or accept a disk. Double quote. Whenever I went to the movies with one of my good friends, he would dig an old popcorn bag out of the top of a trash can, tear a hole in the bottom and rub some of the oil on his pant leg. He would then go up to the snack counter, and in an irritated voice, tell them his bag was defective and point to the oily spot on his pants. Without fail, they would apologize profusely and hand him a brand new bag of the biggest size they sold, retail value $10. At Starbucks, they have that reward card system. You generate points per transaction, not dollar amount nor quantity of items. I've seen several people hold up the line by ordering multiple drinks and having each one rung up on a separate transaction in order to score more points per visit. It's douchy, but there's nothing the baristas can do but say yes. Cosmetics. Sephora has a very lax return policy. Return anything, open, completely used, with or without receipt. I purchased a few items at a local pharmacy which were marked down 75%, and since Sephora carries the same brand, I returned them for a store credit. $25 purchase from local pharmacy got me $100 worth of new stuff from Sephora. They do require a driver's license, so I'm sure at some point they'll refuse a return, but that one time was enough for me. On another note, Costco returns everything. My brother worked there during high school, and while going through old inventory codes saw they used to carry a printer that was currently collecting dust in our basement. He brought this into store and traded it in for a brand new one. Told to me by a master sergeant I worked with. He worked in an old, rundown set of offices on base. They had crappy linoleum floors, and the airmen in the building spent hours every week mopping and polishing the floors. Because, hey, free labor. A buddy of his worked in a nicer building, and mentioned that their building had carpet, but it was in terrible shape. They were supposed to get new carpeting in a few weeks. The first co called up base civil engineering. Since they maintain the buildings, he asked to have carpet installed in his building. They told him that the command that owned the building had to pay to have carpets installed, and his command did not do that. He asked about his friend's building. Since they were in the same command, he was told that replacing carpet was different. Once it was installed, replacements came out of the base's budget, not the command's. When the carpet was replaced at the newer building, he took a bunch of airmen over and got the old worn out carpet out of the dumpsters. They spent a weekend spreading out in their building. A couple of weeks later, he called up civil engineering, had an inspector come out, and pointed out their carpets were worn out. He had new carpets 3 months later. TLDR. Any bureaucracy breeds workers able to survive in a bureaucracy. In the military, it is a different kind of money to have carpet installed versus carpet replaced. One day when I was in college, I was walking through one of the on-campus parking lots back to my dorm when I saw these two guys trying to sell high-quality surround sound systems out of their car. I recognized one of them from my high school. He was a grade older than me and a general putz. Out of curiosity, I listened to their spiel. It was some obviously bogus pitch about how they were installing them in the Whittemore Center, but they ordered too many by accident and blah blah blah. Just looking at the boxes, you could tell they were cheap Chinese knockoffs and worth probably nothing. I could clearly tell they were excited they had hooked me, so I told them I just had to run over to the ATM to get the $300 they wanted. After a few minutes, I went back and told them I only had $301 in my checking account and I needed $3 to deposit first so I could withdraw the $300 and not get hit with an overdraft fee because a different bank ATM charge. So foaming at the mouth, they give me $3 and I wander back over to the ATM. I ducked around the back and across campus to my dorm. $3 richer, but mostly just entertained that icon, the con men. I really don't think this is going to be noticed after 1000 comments already, but I've never really told anyone. I was in 5th grade and our elementary school was holding a contest where we would read books and take tests on them with accelerated reader. The bigger the book and the more questions we got right, the more points we would get. Whoever got the most points at the end of the year won a $500 Talker BMX bike. I figured out my teacher's password to Accelerated Manager and I would take tests on the biggest books I could find in the system. Of course I would bomb the tests, but then I would log into Accelerated Manager and change the result of my tests to 100%. Long story short, I still have that bike. One of my friend's father look a lot like Ted Turner. And I mean a lot. He travels for his business often, and sometimes finds himself in Atlanta, Ted Turner's stomping grounds. One day he has a huge group of clients and goes to a restaurant where his business partner had made a reservation for lunch. The restaurant lost the reservation and told his partner they had no tables free. So he walks to the front of the line and says to the guy, "You mean to tell me I can't get a reservation here?" Double quote. The guy immediately gets them a table, comps them food and drinks, and has them waited on hand and foot. At the end of the meal, my friend's father pays with a credit card. They come back to him and say, "You're not Ted Turner." Double quote. He says, "I never said I was." Double quote. Back in the day, I would go with my family to Atlantic City for weekend gambling junkets. Since I was only 12 or 13, I wasn't allowed in the casinos. So, I was usually left up to my own devices. I would either explore all the hotels, arcades, diners, and whatnot, or I was camped out in fairly plush rooms while getting comped room service, thanks to my family's gambling ways. I realized on one trip that I could watch an entire movie without having to pay for it. Basically, the movie would play for 5 or 6 minutes and then the screen would display a message that you had to click the purchase button to continue viewing the movie. I would flip to another channel for about 20 seconds and flip back, and voila, the next 5 or 6 minutes would play for free. I watched a few movies that weekend. When we were checking out, I glanced at the itemized bill and realized that the movies didn't show up. My hornballed adolescent mind immediately hatched a plan. On the next trip, and many other trips, I was entertained by hours and hours of glorious in-room porn. No one ever found out. Those systems eventually fixed the bug. But not after I fucked myself raw. TLDR. I watched free porn. Maids had to clean up piles of jizz. My friend is a college student. And is pretty much the laziest person I know. He purchased Dragon. That one program where you speak and the computer writes down the words automatically. He installed a microphone type thing and hid it underneath the professor's podium. All the notes he need are transferred to his laptop. And he doesn't do shit in class. Then he just reviews his notes and gets an A. I fucking hate him for it. But I am a little impressed with his simple cheating. For a while, when payphones were still a thing, there was the grand tradition of red boxing. Basically, recording or generating the internal tones that payphone made when you dropped a quarter in, and playing them into the microphone when the payphone asked you to deposit money. That's been long gone for a while now. But a year or two ago, Google made it easy to make free calls again through their short-lived Google 411 service. Essentially, Google had an, actually really useful, 411 service where you would dial 1-800-GOOG-411 and get an automated voice-activated directory service. And they would connect the call for you entirely free. What some people were doing was creating their own business by submitting a fake address with their real phone number to Google Maps. They would pick an obscure name that would be unlikely to be searched for. Google would call your number to confirm the address. And then you would simply go back to your fake listing and change the number to, say, a voice conference service. Or a long distance friend. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, you might have had to use one of those free VoIP call forwarding services too. And get Google to point to that so you could change it? It's been a while. I still miss GOOG 411. Before the era of widespread smartphones, it was amazing to get a few instant Google services from any phone. One semester when I was in college I had a major project that was due in the morning. And I knew I would have to stay up all night to finish. I also had another assignment due for a different class. But there was no time to get it done too. The assignment was an essay that I was supposed to upload electronically to the professor before a certain deadline that evening. Thinking fast, I grabbed some random system file off my computer and opened it as a text file producing a couple of pages of random garbage characters. I then saved the file giving it the title of my assignment and turned it in. After class that day the instructor pulled me aside to let me know she had encountered a problem opening my file. And asked me if I would mind re-uploading it. I told her that I didn't have it with me. But that I would send it again as soon as I got home. Finished the assignment on break after class and turned it in a day late for full credit. One of my proudest college achievements. The numbers in this story may not be accurate since it was a long time ago, but this did happen. I got a $40 gift card to Best Buy, but since Best Buy is just an Amazon showroom I never buy anything there. I heard that in California you can get cash for a gift card less than $25. So I took my $40 card and bought $2.20 cards with it. Then exchanged it for cash. Nothing in the fine print said that I can't do it. After a few dirty looks from managers and employees, I walked out with $40 cash. TLDR managed to cash out a $40 gift card from Best Buy through a loophole. My great aunt has stolen an entire 8-piece set of Red Lobster's dinnerware. This includes salad plates, soup cups, bowls, coffee cups, saucers, dinner plates, dessert plates, platters, silverware, drinking glasses and steak knives. She also has at least 4 of each of their martini-mate other alcoholic beverage glasses. Why Red Lobster? Her son applied in high school but they said he looked too stupid to work there, so that night they went to dinner and she wiped her plate off and took it home with the intent to smash it. Instead, she made a game of it. She also steals salt and pepper shakers from every restaurant she goes to. I was maybe a freshman in high school when our youth group went to church camp. The first day there one of the senwers overheard talk of the camp being low on soda. We found out from our leader that the camp only restocks on the day we will be leaving due to the distance the camp was away from a store. That first night after dinner the plan was devised. Everyone would pitch in as much of their $sign as possible to buy up all but the diet caffeine-free sodas in the camp. There were 12 of us and the regular staff didn't have a list of who was in what cabin. They had no idea that all the kids from the same cabin were buying all the pop. By the second afternoon we had it all. We would then sell the sodas for $2 a piece. Mind you, this was almost 20 years ago. Sodas were 50 cents. The second day sales were grim. And we thought we were sunk. And stuck with all that soda. As fate would have it, someone forgot to turn the iron filter on for the drinking water supply that second night. Come morning everyone had a choice. Either drink the orangish brown water or buy soda. Most bought soda and we had no more worries about losing money. By the fourth day we got dirty looks everywhere we went. We decided to make peace that night by handing out free soda of what we had left at the last campfire. As I remember, I pitched in $10 and got back $20. And I was the youngest, most naive member of our cabin. I'm positive some of those guys made much more. TL. Doctor bought all the pop at church camp and resold it for profit, making both staff and campers irate. Edit TL. DR was attached. I took my first typing class in 8th grade. Every daily grade was based on a typing program. It would give you a page text and you had to type it as quickly as you could with as little errors as possible. Each completion would save a certificate. And we were supposed to print out and turn in our best performance of each day. My best friend and I discovered that you could just spam random letters provided you didn't press the space bar. It counted it all as one word, so the program only tallied one error. We would do this at the start of every class and spend the rest of the time playing games.